welcome to MiCA, and we will talk about whether MiCA is indeed a stablecoins graveyard. We heard some of the reasons why that might be the case, now just mentioned by Alta on stage, but I think we can expand a bit more and see whether that's going to actually create a graveyard for stablecoins. Is this the end of stablecoins? Are we expecting this system to still function properly? And to answer all of these questions, I'm very happy to call on stage our moderator, Gabriel Bizama from the University of Bern. Big round of applause for Gabriel, thank you. Welcome, Gabriel. Lesley Chavkin, Global Head of Public Policy at Paxos. Welcome, thank you. Stéphanie Cabossioras, Secretary General, Societe Generale-Forge. Welcome, thanks so much. And I'm very happy to welcome on stage Member of the European Parliament, Ondrej Kovarik. Thank you so much for being with us, Ondrej. Welcome. All right, enjoy your conversation. Do you have enough microphones? No. Oh, yeah.
So welcome to our next panel that is all about stablecoins. So we're going to speak about usage, adoption, and also the regulatory aspect of stablecoins. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm privileged to have experts in the topic that actually spend a lot of time working in the blockchain space in different capacities. So I think that is a great combination of representatives of the public and private sector. So we have Ondrej Kovarik, a member of the European Parliament. He was one of the former shadows rapporteurs of MiCA. He was in the kitchen of the design of the regulatory framework in Europe. So it's great to have him here. We have Stéphanie from Societe Generale-Forge, an entity that is part of a large banking group in Europe. And also we have Lesley from Paxos, one of the largest stablecoin infrastructure providers. So I think, again, we're going to have a great discussion, and it's a very easy panel for me, I think. We thought that actually it would be great to be as much as interactive with the audience. So what we have done is prepare a couple of questions, so you can answer them. So if you have a phone, please grab it. You can scan a QR code, and then you can start answering. I think that we have 4 questions. They're pretty basic. So basically, it's why you're using stablecoins, why you're not using stablecoins, and for what you're using stablecoins. So that is the first bunch of questions. And the main idea is that we can build on your answers, and we can have a discussion on that. The other thing that I just want to mention is this is not only limited to those who are here in the venue. So basically, if you're online, you can also answer the questions. So I think that we have more than 400 people between online and in person here. So I think that is a very interesting sample to know how people are using stablecoins, where you're not using stablecoins and stuff. So with that, I don't know if we have some the results of the first question. I'm looking at my iPad right now. So there we go. So responses are coming in still, but I think that we have basically one of the main reasons why people are using stablecoins is convenience. So I would like to start maybe with you, Lesley. What is your reaction to this? Can you give us an example on why, for example, the stablecoins that are being issued using the Paxos infrastructure are convenient? Yeah, I would like to know your thoughts about about this?
Sure. So as Gabriel said, I'm Lesley Chavkin. I'm the head of policy for Paxos. If you're not familiar, we're the leading regulated blockchain and tokenization infrastructure platform. We work B2B and allow our enterprise customers to trade, tokenize, and custody assets. And one of our big lines of business, so to speak, is stablecoins. And I think this poll response here really hits on sort of the value of stablecoins overall. I'm a sort of a payments nerd, and there are really big problems in international payments architecture. You may not feel it as acutely here in the EU or in the United States, but you really start to feel it as soon as you start to move money across borders. It can be slow, it can be ineffective, it can be expensive, right? And these are all things that stablecoins can help solve for. So when you look at this first response about wanting the convenience of it, that is certainly something that stablecoins can do and really add value over traditional payment methods. And I think when you look at what Paxos has done, we very much want to design with this in mind. In the summer of 2023, we launched a partnership with PayPal and issued a stablecoin called PayPal USD or PYUSD. It is a stablecoin that has all the benefits of any other Paxos product. It's fully redeemable, it's backed with cash and cash-like equivalents, it's transparent, but it also has that value of the PayPal brand, and that's so important because it gives trust to the consumer. They're familiar with the big payments company that PayPal is, and it's convenient, right? So many people already have a PayPal app on their phones, they use it for daily payments, and now they can use a stablecoin option to make friends and family payments, to make remittances. So I think this is exactly what this really gets at, is the convenience factor.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Convenience is one of the key elements on why people are using stablecoins now. Stéphanie, I would like to hear your thoughts, any reactions to the data. Also, I think that the second reason that people is selecting is cost. So I don't know if you want to touch a little bit on that.
Sure, thank you. So I'm Stéphanie Cabossioras from Societe Generale-Forge. Maybe to introduce a little bit the company if you are not familiar with. Societe Generale-Forge is a subsidiary of the bank Societe Generale, fully owned by the bank. It has 5 years, and its remit is exclusively about digital assets. It started its activity mostly with security tokens. So the first activity of Societe Generale-Forge was to issue bonds on the blockchain. It participated to many issuances, and especially the one with the European Investment Bank, the first one. And recently, last year, we issued a stablecoin, a Euro stablecoin, called the Euro CV, which I will develop. And Societe Generale-Forge was one of the first companies who was licensed as MiCA compliant, as a MiCA e-money institution for the issuance of stablecoin in July. So for the use cases of stablecoins, I think from where I stand in Societe Generale-Forge, there is the use cases of payments, of course, of retail payments, because it can help to be, more peer-to-peer, more direct, more effective. Alors, in Europe, it's starting very difficultly because payments are already working quite well. However, we see some shops who are starting to accept cryptocurrencies and payments in stablecoins. For example, recently in Paris, the famous shop Le Printemps announced to accept payments in stablecoins and cryptocurrencies. There is another use case, which is cross-border payments, which you developed. I think there is a huge potential of increase of effectivity and productivity in cross-border payments. However, what we see currently is that the assets are already in the market, so we already have many stablecoins in the market, but the lack currently is the lack of infrastructure, payment infrastructure, to use this stablecoin for cross-border payments and to onboard and connect the merchants on both sides and on both jurisdictions all around the world. The third use case is the obvious one currently, is managing the treasury, managing all the investments, the trading in crypto. And stablecoins are both a reserve asset for traders, because if you want to cash out your revenues, you securize it in stablecoins. And also stablecoins are used in almost all the pairs of trading. So it's rather rare to have a trading pair between one cryptocurrency and another. Actually, it's one cryptocurrency versus a stablecoin, and the stablecoin versus another cryptocurrency. So that's why the volume of cryptocurrencies is really high in trading. And then the last use case, I want to highlight it because it's really from a big banking group point of view. Stablecoin could be used for the settlement of wholesale transaction, of big transaction in financial markets. Currently, it's fiat money that is used, but in Societe Generale-Forge, we have already done experiments with the central banks, with big issuers, AXA, Generali, and for example, we issued a bond for an insurance company, and this bond was settled, was bought with our stablecoin, the EuroCV. So it's already possible to do very large transactions in financial market using stablecoins as a settlement asset in this transaction, and you see all the potential it has if you inject stablecoins in traditional financial markets. And I will stop there.
Thank you very much for that, Stéphanie. I think that you're right in terms of different use cases. I really like the last one that you mentioned, that the settlement of wholesale transactions. That is something that I see also a lot of potential. Going to you, Ondrej. You've been in the kitchen of the design of MiCA. Have you considered any of these aspects when working with your colleagues at the Parliament?
Thank you for the question. Good morning. Thank you for the invitation. In the kitchen of MiCA, it was sometimes quite a messy discussion. I have to say that in general, the use case or the benefits or the advantages that you listed in the poll were not very much on the table when the MiCA was negotiated. If you look back, and it really feels like Stone Age now, when we started the discussion on MiCA back in 2020, one of the main concerns when the Commission published their draft, specifically on the asset reference tokens or the electronic money tokens, this is how the regulation calls stablecoins in many words, was actually to address possible risk that was presented by the discussion on Libra or DM project back then, and was very much inspired by inputs from the central banks, the ECB, and some of the powerful central banks across EU, specifically Eurozone, to make sure that there is actually a regulating framework for use case such as Libra, if it appears that there is actually, we know what to do with it, that it would not have a negative impact on financial and monetary stability in Europe, etc., etc. Those were the primary concerns. And if you read the specific articles which are currently already applied of MiCA on stablecoins, you would see this aspect very clearly. And on top of that, the finalization of the text happened in early or mid-2022. And again, sort of a recollection of what happened. There was a number of market events that happened specifically in the US, the collapse of US Terra Luna, events around Celsius. I mean, there was a number of things happening in the market, and it was translated directly into the final text of MiCA, because there was a lot of people around table, including the French presidency that was dealing on behalf of the council, that really felt that these parts of the regulation would need to be beefed up. And me personally, I was not very much happy with it, because I was afraid that we go with a very strict and very limiting wording of the regulation. And thanks, Stéphanie, for confirming what I thought at that point, that basically, specifically the part on the electronic money tokens, the way it's drafted right now, it's basically, in my view, fit only for the big banks in Europe, because they have the liquidity they would need it in order to issue stablecoins. They have many use cases, including the wholesale market settlements. And they would basically enter into the digital era of money, where specifically the big groups, commercial banks in Europe, can issue stablecoins as counterweight to what we would expect as a central bank digital money, just to basically keep the monetary balance. And I think this is exactly where MiCA is heading, and this is what I would assume or sort of forecast as a trend in the future in Europe, because for other crypto asset service providers, it may be quite difficult actually to go this way, specifically when issuing the EMTs. For ARTs, for the asset reference tokens, there are limits. So I think that's a different issue. But for EMTs, I think this is a way open for banks like Societe Generale actually to engage and start their stablecoins endeavors.
Very interesting. We have a question regarding challenges of adoption, and I think that what you mentioned at the end of your comment, I think that is very related to that. But let's go to the next question, the results. So basically, why people are not using stablecoins, and it would be really interesting to build on that, if we can show the screen. So very interesting results. I already have a bank account and/or digital money, and it doesn't provide additional value. Well, I was not expecting that, to be honest. But I don't know who wants to start in terms of what the results are telling us. I don't know, Stéphanie?
Obviously, we use stablecoin because we are issuers of stablecoin. But what can be the blockers? Like I said, in payments, the main blocker for me is the absence of a payment infrastructure in blockchain available all around the world. So it's currently being built by startups, by companies, but there is no main solution or interoperable solution. That is another challenge, because we could imagine that companies, merchants, could have the same connectivity they have currently to access payment, and behind the scene, instead of using current traditional infrastructure, they could use stablecoins. Why? Because currently, payments, but it's really the added value of blockchain. Currently, payments go through all the bank accounts of all the banks, correspondent banking, etc., in cross-border payments. So each one has its own register. And of course, there are many complexities, many reconciliations, it takes time, etc. So having instead one layer, one register, to which all the banks could be connected and transfer the value in this layer, it has potentially a lot of added value. The problem is that currently there is no common infrastructure to do that. One other blocker for more adoption, I would say, it's the regulatory environment. Fortunately, in Europe, now it's clarified, but it's not the case in other places of the world. So it's difficult to build a solution fully regulated in Europe and not having the certainty if you operate in another jurisdiction. So it's limiting. And the third blocker, I would say, it's still, you know, for traditional institutions, the ability to to engage with this new regulatory environment. It's still new. MiCA is not fully implemented yet. Only the stablecoin part has entered into application. And traditional institutions are still discovering how it works, which guarantees it brings. And so it will take a bit of time to generalize adoption.
Yeah, I think that is all, I agree with you that it's all a matter of time. So we're going to see more in the coming months or years. Lesley, what is your thoughts in terms of what is the value proposition of, for example, a stablecoin issue by Paxos?
Well, I would say on the poll results, I was surprised. If I had voted, I probably would have selected trust as the reason, as maybe a consumer would not be using stable coins, as opposed to a bank or a traditional payments company that they're familiar with. Why go with some stablecoin operator that you've never heard of, right? So I think trust is a big piece of this, and it also speaks to the importance of having a prudential regulatory framework in place, whether that's MiCA or something else, because I think that trust in the framework conveys to the products and services that are regulated under it. And that has been very much the ethos that Paxos has had since the beginning. Very early on, we intentionally sought out prudential oversight in New York under the New York Department of Financial Services. There's no federal framework in place in the US, but New York is very robust and has been a leader in that. And it's a model that we've replicated across the world. We're also regulated in Singapore under the MAS and in Abu Dhabi. So I think it's really important when we think about what is maybe hindering broader adoption of this, that trust factor is important, and not all stablecoin issuers are built the same. Not everyone has sought out that prudential regulatory framework.
Yeah, I think that and we have here Ondrej that he can elaborate a little bit more on the regulatory aspect. But I just want to go to the next question, that what are the challenges for adoption? I know that we have only 10 minutes, so maybe we can start with Ondrej on this in terms of what is your reaction to this. I think that is the next question, is not this one, because I don't think that we will have the time to go through everything if we have only 11 minutes. So what is the main challenge for adoption? What I'm seeing here is adoption by institutional players, and we have Stéphanie to speak a little bit about that. And then merchants adoptions, that is another one. But Ondrej, what do you think about this? Again, in the thinking of the lawmaker when you were designing MiCA, all these aspects were considered or not that much?
I don't think we considered the family and friends are using stablecoins. No, but I think I'm a bit surprised actually by the high ranking of the adoption by institutional players, because in my understanding, the way, as I mentioned in the previous remarks, the way it's drafted, and I think Stéphanie gave very good examples of it, it's actually sort of inviting the institutional players to issue the stablecoins themselves and actually engage in the stablecoin ecosystem. But obviously, I think what we would see possibly is a sort of a fragmentation of it, again, because I think the main institutional players will try to issue their own stablecoins to cover their own operations, which would not definitely lead directly to a sort of a harmonization of a usage of stablecoins. But I think that may be a stage where we would need to go in any case. I would rather, now it's on top. I think the merchants adoption. I think that's an important thing, which, in my view, was very little taken into account in the negotiations. The main concerns, as I mentioned, was basically let's say the big policy concerns, financial stability, monetary stability, and linked to it also the protection of investors So the stablecoin holders, that they have their guarantees that they are, for instance, currently used to have for the deposits in fiat in the financial institution. So I think these were more concerns that were put on the table rather than merchants' adoption. But I think this is an important one, because it is in order to make sure that stablecoins are actually widespread and there's an ecosystem that is working, we need to actually not only invite investors or the holders to hold them, but they need to find a case, not only to store money. And we know that MiCA is not, very much helping people to get interest from stablecoins, and it's mainly meant as a payment instrument. So then you want to actually have the payment case to settle with stablecoin, and I think this is an important issue that possibly should have been addressed, but I think can still also be addressed by the industry itself.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I would like to hear more about what you mentioned, Stéphanie, about one of the largest merchants in France actually getting accepting your stablecoin. So what are your thoughts in terms of what is coming from the results, that merchant adoption is one of the main challenges for usage?
Yeah, I think one of the main challenges is the trust we have on the stablecoin. The main challenge is that in the past, stablecoin have depegged, either for algorithmic stablecoins or with fiat stablecoins, because the reserve account was held in a bank that was not fully resilient. It was the case with many of the biggest, with the biggest issuers in the world. So the added value brought by Societe Generale is that the reserve account, the collateral, the fiat that it put in reserve to the stablecoin is held in a cash account in a tier 1 bank in Societe Generale. So when you buy as a merchant or as a person the euro convertible, the euro stablecoin of Societe Generale-Forge, you are sure that there is €1 in an account in Societe Generale, which is available for reimbursement at any time for you. And the stability, the trust of the bank which is holding the account, I think is absolutely key to the stability of the asset. And that's why it's really a good thing that MiCA encourages it, because it will help the adoption of stablecoin for everybody. For example, merchants, if you are coming and proposing them a payment solution based on an asset that can depeg, it's possible, it has happened in the past, that can depeg from one moment to the other, they won't accept the payment in this asset. So the stability of the asset is important. And what is good with the euro convertible is that it's regulated. It's an EMT, an electronic money token under MiCA. Societe Generale-Forge was one of the first entities to get the MiCA license in July, really a beginning of July. There is a full transparency on the reserve of the collateral in fiat in Societe Generale. So if you go to the website of Societe Generale-Forge, you have updated every day the amount of fiat, of euro, in the reserve account in Societe Generale. So I checked, it's currently almost 40 million euros. At the same time, you have transparency, thanks to the regulation, on how the coin works, because you have the white paper published in the website, because it's a requirement of MiCA. And now the challenge is to make the stablecoin accessible to the wider population. So it means onboarding more and more partners to distribute the stablecoin. So currently, if you want to buy the EuroCV, you can go on Bitstamp, the exchange. You can go on Bitpanda. We have a big partnership with Bitpanda. And you can, if you are a corporate or an institutional, you can buy it from our market makers, so Wintermute, Flowdesk, and we will announce another partner this week. What we are doing at the same time is also deploying the stablecoin on more and more blockchains, so layer 1s. It was issued primarily on Ethereum, We will launch it on Solana, on XRPL, the Ripple blockchain, and we are also many partnerships coming. So this is why we are working on a wider adoption with the whole ecosystem to make it accessible for any use case that any company wants to develop.
Yeah, I really agree that actually trust is an important aspect, and we're hearing a lot about this, not only in this panel, but in the previous panel. I know that we have only 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Do we have 10 more minutes? Yes. I don't know if 10, but maybe 5. Okay. So we're going to speak a little bit about MiCA. I have a lot of questions, but actually I'm going to do one per each. So actually, I have a question for you, Lesley. What Paxos is doing in the EU to get more adoption of stablecoins and to expand the stablecoin market? And then the other one that I have for you and also for Stéphanie is what MiCA means for USD issuers. So basically we have MiCA, and maybe MiCA is becoming actually the legal framework that many jurisdictions are looking at. So how that is playing. And then for Ondrej, it would be great to know what are your views in terms of whether MiCA has fulfilled all the expectations of the Parliament. What do you think that still is missing? And a little bit of what is the future of MiCA? So maybe we can start with you, Lesley.
All right. The first question is very simple to answer. What Paxos is doing to drive adoption is we are coming to the EU. So we announced just about 2 weeks ago now that we are acquiring Membrane Finance. Some of you might be familiar with it. It's an e-money institution based in Helsinki, Finland. It's regulated by FSA, their Finnish regulator there. Membrane Finance has an EMI license. It's MiCA compliant. We're really excited about this development. It's still pending regulatory approval, but we hope to get it wrapped up as soon as the end of this year or early next year. But it will allow us to bring our regulated global platform to European consumers to offer stablecoin issuance and EMI payment services. And like I said before, we're B2B, we work with enterprises, and we go where the demand is. And we could tell, right as we were approaching that first MiCA deadline back in June, we were getting a lot of interest from our customers about the EU, what our plans were, what they were thinking about. And so this was certainly driven by interest, and I think that shows the potential there is for really accelerated stablecoin adoption here in the EU. On the question about what it means for USD stablecoin issuers, I think I'll touch on something that's come up on a couple of panels so far, which is what does MiCA's EMT provisions, what do they mean in general? And I think while the framework itself has a lot of benefits, including harmonization and the efficiency gains that can come from the passporting process, the EMT provisions are very robust, perhaps so robust that they are going to lock out smaller players from the stablecoin markets, allowing just for bigger players and banks. And that's not going to be in the spirit of promoting innovation that MiCA was designed for. And there are a number of provisions in there, like the one that puts a cap on USD stablecoins, a pretty onerous own funds requirement. There are a number of these provisions that I think are going to be tricky for issuers, but I'm optimistic that these are things that can be at least tweaked on the margins moving forward, and the value of having this open dialogue between industry and regulators during this implementation process is going to be very key. And I think we will have some opportunities in the process to adjust some of those, the most onerous provisions that are not going to be helpful to stimulating growth and innovation here.
Stéphanie?
On the USD part?
Or maybe what do you think about MiCA in terms of other jurisdictions looking the regulatory framework as an example?
Well, I think MiCA has become de facto a global standard and really like not the only one, but the biggest one in the world. It's good because it's forcing de facto players from all around the world to comply with MiCA because voilà, it's difficult not to have activities in Europe. However, there are still some adjustments to do. There is one big blocker, which is the absence of yield, the impossibility to provide yield. It's currently voilà, mainstream in the market. It's really a practice that is everywhere. It won't be accessible for EU customers, so it's really a problem. There is another problem, it's the articulation between the stablecoins and DeFi, because MiCA provides an exemption from a regulatory point of view. However, all the AML regulations don't explain how stablecoin should be used, what are the diligences that should be used, etc. And it's clear that stablecoins are not outside the AML regulations. So there is still an absence of clarity in this field, which is important. And the third point, which is important, is the enforcement, of course, because MiCA is very demanding. It's a good thing, but on the other side, will all the players comply with it? Platforms, issuers, and how the market will evolve with the development of DeFi, which is exempted. So voilà, I think that the market will be recomposing in the coming months.
Ondrej, what is next? We have heard in the previous panel this always a debate of MiCA 2.0. Yeah, what do you think?
Sure. I mean, I think this is actually on the table even before the current MiCA was finalized. I heard people speaking about the MiCA 2.0 in the parliament. For instance, one of the first instances was the collapse of FTX. People were not mentioning that we need to address this by MiCA 2.0. I would be cautious. I think first of all, we haven't seen the full application of MiCA. So we don't have empiric experience and data from the market on how the regulation works or does not work. We are in the run-up stage of full application. We know what it does to the stablecoin ecosystem because the stablecoin provisions are applied now, but we don't know what it would do to entire market. Definitely, there will be some consolidation on the market. There will be some hurdles. I think the first big hurdle is the licensing process. So all the entities, for instance, France has taken a specific approach. It's different to other member states. There may be a regulatory arbitrage running in because some of the companies would just look for easier options to get the MiCA license, and I fully understand that. I would do the same. So I think I would rather be cautious. I'm also saying it because when finalizing the discussions on MiCA 1, there was still a lot of pressure to actually make it even stricter than it is. And there was a lot of things that I'm not happy about, but I'm not 100% convinced that if we reopen the text, that we would not actually go the other direction that we would like to see this. So that's why I'm cautious, and I think what I would call the industry for a good cooperation and actually providing the regulators, so the national competent authorities, but also the European regulators, the Parliament, the Commission, ESMA and the EBA and the others, like to give us your concrete experience with the application of MiCA, because sooner or later, in a couple of years, we will be heading to a review process. This will be fully under the control of the Commission, but the Commission will obviously look for inputs. The more relevant inputs we are able to provide the Commission with, based on the experience of an empiric and data on how the MiCA functions, I think the more relevant output from the Commission regarding the possible readjustments of MiCA we can get in return. And there's obviously other issues that are still pending, open, the DeFi, NFTs, and etc. The Commission is working on it. This will be on our tables next year. But for the review process that will be there in 2027, 28, I think we should already start now gathering the evidence and experience actually to make sure that whoever is deciding on the outcome of the review process is actually deciding on relevant data. And I think this would be, in my view, more important than thinking and balancing whether it makes sense to adopt MiCA 2.0 or not, because there may be frictions in this process, but the review process, it's already in the legislation. The Commission will have to do it. The co-legislators will have to assess it. So let's use this option to make sure that we can do something more appropriate and also relevant for the market, which is not easy. And maybe one final point on the USDT. I mean, obviously it's an issue. But I think, and this is also something that is missing in MiCA, but maybe, in my view, done in practice. Whatever happens in the US after the new administration starts, whatever happens in terms of establishing a regulatory regime, we should start look into this, specifically on the stablecoins, also from the European point of view, and try to find some common points. Are we able to? This is what the European Commission does as a sort of adequacy decision or proportionate. Are we able to actually somehow align these regimes and then make sure that whatever is aligned on the US side would be also then acceptable on our side? Because, I mean, we cannot revamp the entire architecture of USDT. We cannot revamp the entire architecture of the stablecoin provisions of MiCA, but let's see if there are some points in common and work along this way, because this may be actually much easier to obtain, and it can really have a huge impact on the entire industry.
That was great. What I'm hearing is actually a call to action. So if you have data, if you have evidence, if you have good experiences, please call Ondrej or share that with your regulators and with the public sector. I know that we are running out of time. I would love to open the floor for questions, but I'm seeing Tommaso here. I'm looking again. No questions? There is a question there. Only one question.
Very quick question, please.
Please, can you say your name, also if your organization, and if you have a question for any specific panelist, if you can mention that, that would be great.
Okay, thanks. So I'm Thomas Hur. Nice to meet you. I'm self-employed into Bitcoin research, and I have a question, global for the panel, but for Stéphanie also. You told about stablecoin, how it enables peer-to-peer payment, and how do you plan to integrate Bitcoin for really self-sovereign peer-to-peer payment into the system at any level? From user to bank perspective?
We are currently proposing only stablecoin, our own stablecoin, our Euro stablecoin. So voilà, this is what we do, what we are able to do, and I think it's already a significant step because stablecoin is in between TradFi and crypto. So it's an asset that has added value in both environments. And this is what we do in Societe Generale-Forge. We are in the middle of TradFi, of the financial world, and the crypto ecosystem. So we think that is the added value we can bring to the market.
So with that, please join me on a round of applause to the panelists. If you have any other question, please offline.